And today's mysterious background noise that may or may not appear in this video is my cat playing with a fortune cookie wrapper because apparently that's her new favorite toy. Hello everybody, my name is Danny and welcome back to my channel and welcome to my TBR video for the 2 readathons that I will be taking part in September. Now, if you watched my Ski BR video for September, I did talk a lot about the Nostalgia New Year, no, not Nostalgia New Year, that was back in January, Newbery Nostalgia readathon. And I didn't talk at all about Seasonathon Academy, which is the other readathon, because I completely forgot that I wanted to take part in it until I sat down to script this video. So I will just be going over my TBRs for the 2 readathons. I'm going to start with Newbery Nostalgia before moving on to Seasonathon Academy, but all the links for both of those readathons will be down in the description for you guys to check out in case you wanted to participate as well. So, Newbery Nostalgia is the readathon hosted by the Nostalgia Train Book Club in September, where we will be reading a bunch of Newbery Medal winners and honor winners. If you don't know what that is, basically the Newbery Prize is a award for middle grade and lower YA books that just the people on this committee think have merit. I don't actually know the criteria, I should have looked that up, but I read a lot of books that were Newbery winners and honor winners as a kid in school, and that's where I knew about this, but apparently it's just an American thing, and so a lot of people outside of the US didn't know what it was, so that's why I wanted to give it a little bit of a preface. But there are 8 different prompts, and I have picked out different books for each one, and I'm going to tell you about them. So the first prompt is just to read a medal winner, and for that I have The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This will be a reread for me, as will several of the books on this TBR. I absolutely adored this book. As you can see, it's got the big golden Newbery winner circle on here, and this is a witchy book, and I absolutely adored it the first time I read it. This is actually going to be the first time I'm rereading it, and it's been a couple of years, so I'm excited to get back into this book. Honestly, I think this might be a comp title for one of my projects, so that's another reason why I'm super excited to read it. But I also just really, really loved this story, so I had to get it on this TBR. Next up is to read an honor book. So these are books that were nominated but didn't actually win the prize. And for this one, I'm going to be reading Doll Bones by Holly Black. I have no idea what this book is about. I've never read anything by Holly Black before, but I know she's a very prolific author and has written tons of books, so I've wanted to try her out for a while, and I'm very excited to get to do that this month. The third prompt is to read a book that is older than you. I was born in 1998. And so the book that I will be reading is Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine, if I could speak without stumbling over my words. And this book was published in 1997, so just a little bit older than me. Now, I loved the movie Ella Enchanted when I was younger, but I never read the book. I honestly didn't know that it was a book until a couple of years ago. And so I am looking forward to see how the book and the movie differ. It has been many, many years since I've even seen the movie, but I do imagine that it's quite different from the book. Then we have recommendation, and for this I'm going with Bridge to Terabithia by Katherine Patterson, and a little story behind how this became my recommendation book. Basically, I messaged in the Nostalgia Train Book Club Discord server, like, hey, I have books picked out for all the prompts except recommendation, someone recommend me a book, and Anne from the channel Author Anne Sophie basically listed a bunch of books, and I was like, well, this is already on my TBR, I don't have access to this one's already on my TBR, but I don't have access to this one. I just went down the list, and so finally she's like, dang, okay, Bridge to Terabithia? And I'm like, yeah, okay, that one's gonna go in this spot, because it's not on the list yet. And this is another one where I watched the movie when I was a kid, and it's a very, very sad movie. I'm assuming it's a very, very sad book, because I can't imagine that it wouldn't be to get that sad of a movie out of it. But I've never read this book, and I want to know if I'm gonna cry. I don't think I will, because I do know, the sad stuff about it from watching the movie, but we'll see. I do cry very easily at books and movies and things, so we'll find out. The next prompt is to do a buddy read, and for that I have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. As we all know, I love Neil Gaiman. He's one of my favorite authors of all time, and it has been a long time since I read this book. I read it in, I want to say, like, 5th grade, and it's one of the books that, like, got me interested in storytelling and, like, wanting to be an author myself. And I don't know if I've read it since then. I might have read it once in the, like, 13 or 14 years since I first read it, but I am putting this under buddy read for 2 reasons. The first is that this is actually the group book, so it's the like regular Nostalgia Train book club pick for September, but it's also counting as a buddy read for me because my boyfriend said that he would read it with me. So the last time we read a book together was in 2019 when we actually read Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. So this is gonna be exciting because he doesn't read a whole ton of actual books. He really just reads manga, but he loves Neil Gaiman almost as much as I do, and so I'm excited to buddy read this with him. Then we have a book that is out of your comfort zone, and for this I am putting Genesis Begins Again by Alicia D. Williams. This is out of my comfort zone because, admittedly, I don't read a lot of books where the main focus is, like, the experience of being POC. I do try to read books by POC authors and with POC characters, but they're usually like fantasy books and stuff where it's not really the main focus of the story. I don't really read contemporary books like that because I don't read a ton of contemporary, and so this is a little bit out of my comfort zone. I don't know what to expect from it, but I'm very much looking forward to it. And the next prompt is to read a book you recognize, and for this I'm putting The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear, and this is a book I recognize because way back in 5th grade, so I have a twin sister, and we were in different classes growing up in school, and in 5th grade I remember she had to read this for class and I didn't, and she hated it. She absolutely hated this book, and I like witchy stuff, so like, maybe I'll like it more than she did, but it was totally not her vibe. And finally, the 8th and final prompt is the serendipity pick, which is basically just a book that, like, it feels right to read for whatever reason. And for this, I'm putting The Wednesday Wars by Gary D. Schmidt. And the reason this goes in the serendipity pick for me is because back in, I want to say 7th grade, it might have been 6th grade, I really don't remember specifically, I did something that was called Battle of the Books, and I talked about this in my TBR video, but I'm going to tell the same story again. And basically, you had a team of your classmates, there was 5 of us, and they gave you a list of books. I want to say there were like somewhere between 10 and 15 books on the list, and you had a month or 2 months for your entire team to read the books. You can delegate however you wanted to for who reads what book, and then at the end of that time period there was a trivia contest to see who gleaned the most information from these books. I don't know, but my team actually won, and one of the books that I read was The Wednesday Wars by Gary D. Schmidt, and I remember really loving it and like feeling touched by it, so I'm excited to revisit this book. And that is my TBR for Newbery Nostalgia, and now we're going to get to my TBR for Seasonathon Academy. So basically the premise of Seasonathon Academy is that there are a whole list of classes because September is back to school time for most places, and you have 5 required courses or like categories. So like the first course is required, then the next one there's like a list of courses you have to choose between, and then there's another list of courses you have to choose between, and there's like 5 total books that you have to read to like pass the semester. So basically, I'm just going to go through the courses that I chose and what prompts they are, and tell you what books I picked for them. I did manage to fit all books that were either from my SkiBR TBR or my Newbery Nostalgia TBR onto this one, so it is just talking about books you've already heard me talk about, but that's fine. I just wanted to like double, triple up as much as I could across my own TBR game and these 2 readathons to make things easy for me and give me some space to hopefully mood read a little bit. So the first required course is English 1010, and the prompt for this is just to read anything you want. And so for that, I'm putting The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. I put this on my SkiBR TBR for my like free pick because I managed to roll in the 50-point spot, and I'm still very proud of myself for that. But this is the like most anticipated book for me to read this month. I read this last September and absolutely fell in love with it. It was like my favorite read last year, one of my favorite books of all time, and I'm apprehensive but excited to see how I feel about it the second time around, and I specifically saved it for September because I read it in September of last year. The second required class is Math 1010, which what you do is you take all of the digits of your birthday and add them together and keep repeating that process until you get a single digit, and then you have to read a book where the last page number ends in that digit. And so my birthday is September 19th, 1998. When you add it all together, you get 46, I think, if I remember correctly. Adding 4 and 6 together, you get 10, and then 1 plus 0 is just 1. So I have to read a book with a page number ending in 1, and so for that I picked The Wednesday Wars, which has 331 pages according to Scribd, which is how I'm going to be reading it. So that is the book I picked for this prompt. The next course that I chose was History 1030, and the prompt is to read a book with a Black author, and for that I am putting Genesis Begins Again, which is by a Black author. So it's a pretty simple fit. Then I chose Philosophy 2350, which is to read a book with a movie or TV adaptation, and I have 2 books from my Newbery Nostalgia TBR that could fit either Ella Enchanted or Bridge to Terabithia. I already told you guys about how I've seen both of those movies and really liked them, so it's not a big deal which one goes here because they both fit, so one of those books is going to fulfill this prompt for me. And finally, for Foreign Language 1010, you have to read a book set in a different country from your own, and for that I'm putting The Graveyard Book because this takes place in England and I am American. And it's actually kind of funny that this is like in the Newbery Nostalgia where it is, because like I mentioned before, it's like an American award, and Neil Gaiman is a British author, so he shouldn't have been like eligible to win because it's supposed to be for American authors, but he like has American citizenship or residency or something, which is why he qualified. But regardless, I'm very glad that I could fit this in here because now it's on my SkiBR, TBR, Newbery Nostalgia, and this TBR, so yay. And those are all the books that I'm going to be reading for the 2 readathons that I'm doing this month. It was quite a bit of doubling up, so you've just heard me talk about the same books a couple of times, but it's fine. I am very excited for the books that I have chosen, so I'm glad that I could fit them in several places. So let me know down in the comments if you plan on participating in either of these readathons or any other readathon. I definitely would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys!